the last lesson, I talked about scaling out. So when you scale out, you have multiple instances of your application. So an example of a web server, in this case, it's running the Nginx web server software. And you've got multiple instances of your application, and you could have many, many of these instances. And then you might have 3 clients, you might have 1,000 clients, and they're connecting to those instances. So you can keep scaling the number of web servers you have in order to accommodate the load. The question is though, how do you direct traffic to them? Because as you know, normally you have a DNS name, so the domain name, so maybe it's example.com or amazon.com, and that corresponds to a specific IP address, and that is the address to which your clients will then send information. Well, what we do is we introduce something called a load balancer. Now, the load balancer will have a DNS name and it will have an IP address, but when traffic reaches the load balancer, it can then distribute it to different instances behind it. So, as an example, the users are going to connect to the load balancer, and the load balancer is going to forward their connections on to backend instances. So in this example, each user may well get directed to different web servers. And if you had many users, hundreds of users, they would all get directed, and it would try and distribute the traffic relatively evenly across those backend servers. So what happens if one of those backend servers, one of these web server instances fails? Well, if it fails, then the connection gets dropped and the user will simply be rerouted by the load balancer to another server. So it gives you that resiliency as well. So you don't have to worry about any individual application or web server failing, because if it fails, the load balancer will take care of routing the data to another server or routing the connection to another instance of your application.